just wanted to show this unbelievable graphic that Andrea did. It's so cool, man.
Yeah,
It makes us look
I
really
got them
professional. I love it.
into the
Yeah,
spirit, lads.
Andrea's in the Christmas spirit. I'm not. I apologise. I spent the last 2 days at getting rid of clothes, stuff, and rubbish because the house just got too cluttered. So I've got like dust in my eyes, and I'm tired from that. So, how are you, mate? How are things with you? Are you all right?
Good, man. Good. I finished working today. So, of
Good.
course, when we are recording this is the 23rd, we will go on with this one, of course, on the 24th. But yeah, I just finished working and I will be on vacation till the 7th of January. So everything
Nice.
very, very good. I'll have time to read, I have time to do walks, and yeah, just to chill for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it's a good time, of the year now. See your relatives.
Mm.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to the big dinners that we do usually in Italy for Christmas Eve and Christmas
Mm.
dinner, which basically turns into a whole day of eating, basically, because I'm at my uncle's place. I think we start eating around 1 p.m. and
Mm.
get up from the table, from the chairs around 7, 8 p.m. probably. We don't dine, of course, because you eat all the day. Then after that, yeah, with my cousin, usually we watch the NBA games for
Right.
Christmas, and we don't
Nice.
have
Yeah.
Boxing Day. We don't have Boxing Day in Italy. It's not felt, so I call it
Yeah.
Boxing Day, but it's Saint Stephen's in Italy. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just seen like a pause between the 2 days of eating of 23rd and 25, Christmas and Christmas Eve, of course, and just like a rehab, a way
Mm.
to a pause, yeah, a pause from 24, 25, going towards the final days of the year, and the 31st of December,
Mm.
so yeah, I'm just gonna chill. Honestly, I never felt so much the 31st, because at the end of the day, it's just a day turning into another day. I usually watch at 1 a.m., of course, here in Italy, because you are 1 hour behind us. I watch on
Mm-hmm.
Sky News on YouTube the fireworks from London. Hopefully one day
Nice.
I'll
Yeah.
watch
Yeah.
them live. Yeah, but very good, very good. It's not like here, with the fog
Mm.
and the rain.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrible weather, mate. Do you know what? That's the best thing about. Yeah, I think I go back to work around that time as well. So got a few weeks
Yeah,
off to not get soaking wet and cold every day. At 9, 8 o'clock in the evening, it's grim. But yeah, we're gonna have a quiet one this year, mate. To be honest, me and me lass, where we saw my family at the weekend, so we've done all that early because public transport here, and yeah,
yeah.
it was a good time to do it, get out of the way. Um, saw my dad, uh, saw my mum, saw my brother, and I didn't see my sister because she wasn't there. She passed a driving lesson. By the way, I just want to say this because she's an absolute legend, my sister, right? My younger sister. She passed her driving test, so she can drive now. 8 months pregnant.
Ooh, congrats,
Crazy. Built
congrats.
different, honestly. We're
You're
built
gonna
different in
be
Yorkshire, Andrea.
Uncle Ben.
Yeah. Second, my older sister's got a kid as
Ah,
well,
you're
so
okay. On one. How does it feel in the family?
great.
Great
It's weird
news.
that
Yeah.
it's weird that it's my younger sister. It makes me feel like I need to hurry up. but
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
but
she's
no,
younger. Yeah, younger, because
yeah,
the gap is how many years between you and her? The age gap.
she's 21, so
21. Oh,
7,
oh,
yeah,
7 years. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Congrats.
She's
Congrats.
yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Gotta
She's
make
a
him the baby, him or her. Gotta make him
little boy. Yeah,
him a Leeds fan when he grows, or she grows
see,
up, of course.
see,
Not
yeah.
like
It's
your brother who supports Man United.
yeah, it's a little lad. It's gonna be a little guy. So
Okay, okay.
the problem is her boyfriend and their family are big Man United fans.
Nah, man. You are
So
surrounded, you're besieged by Man United fans all around you.
mate, you won't believe it. So there's a big scrap going on. But best believe I'm going to take him to Ellen Road when he's allowed. Straight
Yeah.
away on his birthday, he's going to be there.
You're gonna take him here and see. There's people chanting here. Actually, there's people clapping.
Yeah.
It's not silent display.
Exactly, mate. It did it for me. It sealed it for me when I went to Ellen Road when I was young. Before that, obviously, I loved football, but I was very much in England. I loved England. The second my dad took me to Ellen Road, I went, what? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is cool. And then that's it. Then you're done. Once you're marching together when you're walking up the steps, sealed. Which I didn't get to do with my brother, which is why I went and turned to the dark side. But anyway, yeah.
Anakin.
Yeah. Anakin, yeah. Quite. He didn't stick with Qui-Gon. Yeah. If Qui-Gon had been alive, who knows what would happen.
In fact, man, you see the reference. There's substance because you're called Ben Kenobi. So
Exactly.
say that.
Exactly. Yeah, Ben Kenobi, not Kylo, not Kylo,
Yeah.
not Kylo.
No,
Anyway,
that's Kylo. That's not Star Wars, man. I'm sorry.
If we continue, we'll go down a path we cannot follow.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about football, right? Because that is a thing, apparently. Crystal Palace, mate, at the weekend. Yeah, I mean, go on, I'll let you go. What are your thoughts on the game?
Absolutely buzzing. I think it was a very good and probably unexpected with 4 goals. I think some of us could expect it if we had won, 1-0, 2-0, but 4 goals, a very good Christmas gift, I think, for all the fans and especially the patience, the support. Because I think, apart from probably Forest, when there was some disconnect, very little one, not major. At the end of the game, in the away end, and the players in Fake, I think the fans have always supported the squad, even in the dark times, and we go back again to Star Wars, when the Empire, during the dark times this season, or the difficult times, I think it's very good because, of course, we see the comment and the backlash online, but if you notice Elland Road, their away end, they're always they're always supporting the squad, and they've always been the 12 man, and then yet again, the other day they were again the 12th player. I think in Buenos Aires they call the fiercest and the Barra Bravas of the ultras of Boca Juniors La Doce. The 12th man, basically, it's the same under the road. Basically, it's a factor. Under the lights is completely factor and game changer because the players are completely rallied. They are pushed to their limits by the crowd, and honestly, the new setup helps them massively. Of course, we're gonna talk later about the sustainability long term because, again, Gudmundsson and Bogle were absolutely finished at the end of the game. They always run out of energy because they run so much. But yeah, I think the mentality it's the biggest surprise. I think after Forest, with after the first half at Man City, in the second half, I think a new Leeds we lost because of that goal by Foden, but a new Leeds was born that day. We look completely different with this new setup. The mentality, you see, the 11 men on the pitch moving as one. There's always belief, even at Brentford. There's always belief. Now we haven't lost since Man City, actually, so it's a pretty good run. And even the point at Brentford, some people said, yeah, we not good enough. 1 point, we are better than them. In the end, you see in retrospective now how much that point meant, because we still got a point, and now follow up with an even better performance, a more consistent one against Palace. And let's not forget, they just lost 2 games away all season. So they had I think you said to me it was the best record after Chelsea, maybe, or Arsenal.
On Sky Sports, it said it in the league. It showed goals, points, goals against, and they're all number 1. So
yeah, so they were the best one. So and let's not forget they won the FA Cup last season. They won the Community Shield. They, of course, they lost Eze, for example, but they have still have good players. Mateta, Wharton. There's Mitchell didn't play well, but yeah, they're Gay, of course, Margay. Anderson is a very good keeper, I think. But Yeah, they are a very good side, and it was a massive win, best performance of the season for me, because in the end we completely nullified their build up completely
We did.
sent them every time on the wings. They never created anything apart from the first 10 minutes. You know, I think we were not the better team on the pitch before the goal of Calvert-Lewin, to be fair. But after that, the game changed, you know. I also seen a tweet from a journalist following Palace, like it was saying Wharton and Mateta linking up pretty well so far. Palace dominating at Elland Road, and after the goal, the ties completely changed, and we dominated them all around. But I think it's also down to the system, because uh, we talked about the lack of intensity before. You know, I think after Forest with Longstaff stuck, struggling, a lot of goals conceded. The majority of the goals conceded from runners from midfield, not tracked back by our midfielders. Now it's different, because this system, we are basically 5 at the back when we are defending, and because Gudmundsson and Bogo return to defense, so they allow Stack and Tanaka Longstaff, you know, the 2 8s, to get forward positionally, not pressing aggressively, you know, but positionally more forward in our formation, in our shape, you know, and that allows them actually to be more effective by running in a more oriented way, not being in a rush or struggling when they need to track back, because in the end you have a more compact defensive position, you know, because Ampadu stays further back. So we really concede now from through balls, you know. Of course, against Liverpool we conceded 2 goals from there, you know, but you know, mistakes happen. But if you look at Brentford and Chelsea, of course, the last 5 games, I think we were really narrow and compact, and very well balanced, you know. So that allowed us to, when we recover the ball, to be already in an offensive oriented way, and that was the big game changer, of course. Along with the fact that with Aronson this time being tried, you know, and he did pretty well in this new role, you know, as a people said as a number 8, but I don't think he played as a number 8. I think he played more like a free midfielder, let's call it like that. You know, he was moving more similar in a similar position to last season. In the end, when he was playing in the number 10, I think Stack and Ampadu were more compact, and that allowed also Rodon to play. People call him a winger, you know, but in fact, when we were in possession, he was helping in midfield too, you know, with his far wide position. So that helped Aronson to stay further forward. So yeah, very, very well. And what can we say about Calvert-Lewin, man? You know, it's the Christmas period. So if anyone is going to break up or something, you know, cope by singing, you know, last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to Calvert. You know, you remember that clip of the Scouts, the Liverpool fan, saying he's the best player in the world? Exactly. He's the best player in the world.
It's what we need, man. Is Calvert-Lewin's. He came into the team, and look, it was never a concern ability-wise for Calvert-Lewin for me. It was just about his injury record and his consistent playing time. It's never ability. I've always said this, and it seems to be overlooked. If a player's played for England, the amount of times he has, which is double figures, by the way, you're a good player. That doesn't disappear. He's 28 years old, and when we looked last week, I couldn't believe he's younger than Ollie Watkins. I couldn't believe it. He's so young still for a striker. And what's happened now, and this comes down to our medical staff again, for whatever reason, they seem to be really finding these kind of injury-prone players and then making them play consistently, which they've not done in years. A lot of them, even Metcher as well, obviously is injured now, which kind of goes against it. But for a lot of the season, he played constant good minutes. Metcher's another player who's played for Germany several times. These are good players. They are good players. They're very good players. Yes, they're not what they used to be. That's why they're at us and not at a top team. But within that, if you can unlock that player that played for England, that played for Germany, they'll keep you in the Premier League. These are the levels of players that they can be. And we're seeing that with Calvert-Lewin now. He is reaching that level, or if not, he's doing it, that he was, what was it, 19, 20, 18, 19? Where he was,
I think, yeah.
Oh, was it? Yeah. A while ago.
The year of the Euros, yeah. The year of the Euros.
Yeah. But that player now we're seeing it again. He's found his confidence. But the main thing for me, mate, is it's a new environment. That always helps. He's back in Yorkshire as well. He's a Yorkshireman, you know, maybe there's a little bit there about that. Feels at home. But he's just playing consistent minutes and he stayed fit. It's one of the biggest things in the footballer's career. Can they stay fit? You know, if that's why medicals are so important and they go on for 2 days, some of them, because we need to know, is this player going to be available? And he has been available for most of the season. And look at it now. Like Farker said in his presser the other day, he actually said, you know, he had a little mini pre-season when the season had started. I think he said 4 weeks. So he was never going to play a big part in that 4 weeks because that was his time to get fit, that little block. And he's done that, got fit. Now he's sharp. Look at him. He's in the right places at the right time, which is what you need him to be. And for a team like us, who's just been newly promoted, look at the other teams around us. They are missing a Calvert-Lewin. And it's just good to see. And honestly, I just hope he can keep it up as much as possible. But yeah, in terms of the actual general game, and I just want to talk about one specific thing. You've spoke about it really well, so I don't need to talk about, you know, repeat everything you said. But in terms of, there's two different things. So when Farkham says in his pressers about formations, base formations, he don't really believe in it. I know a lot of people will complain about that. What do you mean? So this is the point. What was our base formation? Because in possession, out possession were two completely different things. Yeah. But also, our formation when we played down the left and down the right were completely different. Hence the Rodon role that everyone's talking about. Rodon was a centre-back. That was his role. His position was a centre-back, sorry. His role was a wide centre-back. But his actual kind of instructions were as a winger, basically, in possession, right? When we had the ball down the right. When we had the ball down the left, it was different. It was back, he tucked in more central. So this is the point. There's a difference between a role. There's a difference between a position. There's a difference between a formation and a system. They're completely different things. And that is perfectly shown by Rodon, who was a centre-back for most of the game. But when we had a certain build-up pattern down the right, he was our highest player at times on that right. So this is what Farker means. It's not about sticking to a certain formation. It's about finding little adjustments within that shape to create spaces and create gaps. And he was our outlet in that first half, was Joe Rodon. And this is where it's important to work with a player's attributes. So, for example, could Strauch have done that? Probably not.
No.
The reason we work that with Rodon is, again, I think it works with Bogle because he's very good positionally, which allowed Rodon the space. But also, Rodon's quick. I sent you a message, didn't I, mate? I went, he's genuinely so fast. I don't understand it. I can't explain how.
Rolls Rodon.
Yeah. Like, he's so running down that right wing. I'm thinking, he's so quick. But the manager's using that attribute that he's got to find a space, find a way we can get past Palace. And now, look, in the first half, I do think that we were over-reliant on that. He was the only way we were kind of getting through. But whereas we found a solution, maybe a few months ago, that wouldn't be the case. We wouldn't have the confidence to try that, and we wouldn't find any way through, and maybe we'd have struggled. But that outlet worked, and you could see after the goal when we scored, it became more prominent. He kept doing it more. We were getting more confident. There was a real belief. And honestly, mate, since the goal, we just looked like a completely different animal. But that animal I saw after the goal was the team that will keep us in this Premier League. The team in the first half is the team that we need. Sorry, the first half before the goal is the team we kind of need to nullify. Yeah. You know, the team after the goal, that's what we need to stay in this league. And honestly, mate, I agree with you. Everything about the mentality after that goal, like even Ampadu just playing with pure confidence. I think it helps so much, like you said, allowing Aronson, again, another player I thought struggled in the first 25 minutes, Aronson, to find his role.
At the start, yes.
He
New
didn't
one,
really find,
of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't call him an number 8 after one game, honestly, to be fair. It was an experiment, it worked, you know, but it's not, every game is not the same. So we need to see if it works against another side. I don't think it will against more physical sides, for example, you know. But yeah.
But this comes back to formation, base formation, player role. Like he was an 8, right? In theory, that's what he was. But his role was different. His role in possession was high and wide and in the spaces. So this is the point of a role. It's different to a position. You know, it's very different things. But when he did find his feet, we got the best of his attributes. He got it in the right areas. He could affect the game massively. And he actually became a very important player in that second half for us. I was really happy with how he played in that second half. And this is why I love about that, though. When you have Stack and Ampadu playing at the level they are at right now, because they are playing really well, a little deeper and progressing high. Stack's not starting higher, he's starting deeper and he's pushing up, which is where we need him to be. They are so good at second balls, unbelievably good at it, reading the game in the middle, that this allows an Aronson to kind of cheat a little bit and start a little bit higher. Now, what we did see near the end, not for long, for 5 minutes when they scored and then hit the post, that was just when Ampadu and Calvert-Lewin went off. That shows we are so fragile when our big players are missing. This is why the depth is important. We brought Pirro on. I was praying for him to have that penalty. I really wanted Joe Pirro to score a Premier League goal. I want to clarify, I absolutely love Joe Pirro, but I think that game showed that there's probably a little bit of a level still.
Yeah.
He lost the ball twice in dangerous areas, which led to counterattacks, the goal, for example, or the post being hit, and he didn't have the pace or the aggression to get back quickly and solve that problem. So I think we're still short in terms of, you could see when Ampadu and Calvert-Lewin went off, we lost all our aggression and our vocal point. But generally speaking, seriously happy with that, mate.
Absolutely. Buzzing, and even more than that, because now there's the witch hunt about Calvert-Lewin, because there's a lot of people that when he signed, remember me you saying he's a good player, but we need to keep him fit, because we don't know, he's another player when like Match, with a very bad injury record in the last couple of seasons, even Match, now he's injured, of course, so we need to keep our fingers crossed that Calvert-Lewin stays fit, because right now you see that when Calvert-Lewin is off, or you need to sub him off, because again, another player that is overworked, because the problem needs like Gudmundsson and Bogle. At least for one of them, you have Justin who can come on, from the bench. With the Calvert-Lewin, you don't have anyone now with Match injured that can go for aerial duels, because Pirro is not that player. He's not a player that challenges for aerial duels. He's not a player for the long ball. You can throw the long ball for Calvert-Lewin to get the ball up. You can do that with Pirro. So right now you don't have a player of that type, because Match, of course, is injured on the bench. So we really need until Match is back to keep our fingers crossed, because we've seen that Calvert-Lewin right now is flying. I think it's the best form, not just in terms of goals, also in terms of fitness. In the last 3 or 4 years, the way he moves, he looks very, very versatile, actually, in terms of how he moves, all around the final third. The problem is that he needs to stay fit. So we need to manage him, even her, we went 3-0 up. I said to myself, I was thinking, I said in my head, take him off. We have Sunderland on the 27th. Or 28, 27. I keep mixing the 2 days, on the 20. After Boxing Day, basically. You have other players said, I remember you bring Nyonto and Tanaka on. We need to rotate. Because this period, of course, we don't play on Boxing Day this time. But it's still a very congested period. You need to manage these players. You don't need to overload them. So I even wrote that in my thread on Twitter. After the game, the only thing that I can point out, to Fullback actually in that game is not on the performance. It's just on the timing of the changes again. But not because other players were playing badly. It's just because of fitness management. We played many games. There's the FA Cup later on too. At the start of January, so of course he will rotate there. I think with Derby, it will be difficult. But you see, I think he needed to take some of the players who were absolutely knackered off earlier, because Sunderland is going to be a massive game. Not because of the table, of course. To newly promoted team, they're going to miss some players because they are an AFCON. But because it's going to be a very intense game. They are a team that runs a lot. And it's going to be a different game compared to Palace first, because we are playing it at an old style in an hostile atmosphere. Now the Stadium of Light has returned. Remember, of course, I think everyone, the majority of us, has watched Sunderland till the 3 seasons. You see how that place during the bad times under better ownership plummeted in terms of atmosphere, and how with the new owners they returned to be an hostile crowd and hostile atmosphere, and they are a different breed when they play at home. So they are good away too, but they are a different breed at home. So it's going to be a very challenging game. I remember when a couple of games, when we lost, Joe Bellingham header, and when we won with the Dallas scoring when they had gone down from the Premier League 2017, 2018, I think. But yeah, on Calvert-Lewin, man, the thing is, looking at this map from Opta, see all the goals. That's what we missed, a player that is capable of finishing the crosses, to be clinical. And there's even me and you talk about him, his clinicality, his capability of being at the right place in the right time, and this map shows it completely. I was talking also to another Italian guy, that lives in Manchester too, like you, between Manchester and Dubai, Nicolo, and he studied at Leeds, university, so he follows Leeds too, and he's from my same town. And he said to me, without reading my thread before that, so it's good to see that I'm not the same that I talked about that. I said Inzaghi style. He's like Inzaghi, people Inzaghi, Filippo. He's like Inzaghi. Inzaghi was not a very good player. He was not a versatile player, but inside the box, it was his territory. It was like a dog chasing his bone. Inzaghi in that area. Some people said that it was born offside. A quote from Saki. Another quote was that it's not Inzaghi chasing the goal, but it's the goal chasing Inzaghi. It's like when the ball, it's like the ball always finds Inzaghi. It's the same with Calvert-Lewin. He's always in the right place to find the ball or have the ball find him. So absolutely great. The problem again is that with a match out, we don't have another outlet like him up top. So I always said, even at the start of the season, because of course I challenge everyone to say the opposite. Like now it's easy to say, we always supported that. Yeah, he's gonna be our number 9. I challenge everyone to say that in August. Because you see, you look at Match and Calvert-Lewin back in August, you see 2 players with injury records, 2 very good players, but you cannot rely completely on the players with an injury-prone record. You see now Match is injured, for example. Cial is staying fit, but of course, with the current state of Pirlo, we need, I think, probably alone another striker, because Okafor is not the first striker; he's the second striker with this formation, and you don't have another one. Pirlo can play the second striker, maybe in some styles of football, but not in this one, I think. So yeah, I think we need to provide also an alternative to DCL, of course, on the long term, because of Match, and now is out, of course. Match is out, so yeah.
And to bring it back to what you said about the DCL getting overloaded a little bit, I agree. He's playing a lot of minutes when he probably doesn't need to. I'm talking the last kind of 15 where he can probably come off. But looking at the game at the weekend, I think in Farke's head, even he's thinking, who do I bring on?
Yeah.
Like you said, Perot can be that second. Yeah. If we're in a game and we've already switched Calvert-Lewin for a Mecha, you can take Okafor off and bring Perot on if that's the situation you're in. Again,
against a narrow defense. Against a narrow defense. I want to underline that too. Yeah.
Yeah, not in a stretch game or a transitional game.
Yeah, exactly.
And ideally one where we're winning. But my point is, he cannot remotely be the target, the vocal point. It just doesn't simply work. We saw that, and it went to bits. It went to bits for 5-10 minutes. But what is clear, and this is why I think people so much disrespect on the manager finally coming round. Farke said, I think it was after Forest, so it might have been the one before that. We're working so hard at training every day on how we affect each box, how we defend the box or just in front of it, how we attack the box. Look at that graphic. And since that, I think 5 of them goals come from that area. So clearly, we found a way to make it work in the box. We ain't got the most creative players that are going to drive into the box, take guys on. So what we're relying on is getting balls into the right area for a striker. That's our way of working, and it's working. And on the other side, I spoke last week, I think it was, about how we've quietly done really well against most strikers. Obviously, not all of them. Ekitike, for example, scored 2. But on the most part, Haaland is one I can think of. Most strikers with most big physical, another one. Most big physical strikers who have scored a lot of goals this season, in some cases, we've defended really well in the last few months, apart from the few occasions. Again, looking at the game at the weekend, Mateta, I think we dealt with him, apart from 1 or 2 moments, really well. This guy plays for France. Let's not forget, he's a very good striker. And I think we bullied him for a lot of the game, and they don't like it. So either box is working at the moment. That's where we're aggressive. We're dealing with problems. We'll always have problems. We always will. I mean, we're a newly promoted team. Even when you're not, I mean, it's the Premier League. You'll have problems every week. You're playing against world-class players every week and world-class managers. But we've found our biggest weaknesses. And in that, whether that's adapting in game, which we had started to do now, ideally a little bit earlier sometimes, but it's happening. And we've found our strengths in the box, and we're using it. And that graphic shows exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And how do you stop that? The thing is, the opposition can see that and go, how do we stop it? But if Calvert-Lewin's out jumping you, it's very hard to stop it, right? If you've got a striker that's got that instinct. Exactly. If you've got a striker that's got that instinct, it's hard to stop. But I just want to show that. And have you got anything else to say, Andre? I think we're going to move on after.
Yeah, a very quick one, because you mentioned the good defensive management of the good defensive marking on the opposition number 9s. First and foremost, apparently Pascal Struijk was not a Premier League centre back at the start, and it's not good enough. It was really downplayed before we returned to the Premier League, and now he's proving that he belongs. He already proved he belonged. In the first season, Bielsa played him. And then after that, people tend to forget that under Marsh and after all the other managers that came after him, the best out of them was Kubala. I still remain convinced of that, above Avi Gracia and Sam Allardyce. Remember that under Marsh, he was played, and even when we were in emergency, before, he was played more like a left back in certain games. So he completely, if you remember that Struijk, when the season we went down, he was all over the place. He was the epitome of confusion. He was a player that was broken to bits, tactically. It was his second, third season in the Premier League, and completely the shake-ups in terms of formation and style of football had completely destroyed him, because he was really struggling. It was really struggling. Yet, people tend to forget that if we stay up, of course, remember the goals at Brentford, the one from Harrison, Rafinha, of course, that great performance. People tend to forget that it was the header of Pascal Struijk against Brighton the week before that gave us a vital point. Otherwise, we would have gone down probably without any doubt, because in the end, Burnley lost against Newcastle, I think. But it was massive too. And the other thing I think is that you mentioned, of course, the defense, but I think the other main, apart from the defense now, it's all of them are benefits of the new system. I think the big difference is also that, like I mentioned it before, the majority of goals we consider came from runners from midfield, and our midfielders struggling to track back their direct opponents. Right now, I think one difference maker, I think probably the biggest one, is how the midfields manages their runs. They don't have to run the whole length to be on the offensive end of the pitch, and then don't have the pace to track back like Stark, Longstaff. Those players struggle in a 4-3-3 to track back because they have different duties compared to the 3-5-2. Now you see Stark, you see Tanaka. They are in a very balanced position. One of them has the opportunity to get forward, but they are covered because they have the left wing back or the right wing back. They have Ampadu operating like a bouncer behind them. They have 3 defenders behind them. So it's more balanced all around, And even Stack, there were comparisons because of his body type and also the beard and the hairstyle to Declan Rice. People that watch Declan Rice. Rice is not an eye presser. He's not an eye presser. He's a very balanced player, more physical than Stack, of course. But one thing that makes Rice world class is how he manages its run, because he's not a slim player. He's a heavy player because he has a lot of muscle. So he has to manage that, to be a top player. Another similar one can be Mikel Merino or Rodri. These are not fast players. They are players that need to manage the run, because it's not speed or acceleration with them. Speed, it's progression. And progression is different from constant speed. With progression, you have a limited amount of speed and amount of sprint. You don't have a constant sprint like Dan James, for example, or a box-to-box player. In the middle, so those box-to-box players that recover and have the pace to run the length of the pitch, they need to manage the runs. And now stuck with this new role, he knows where he has the opportunity to sprint. Otherwise, you see him one touch, passes the ball. When he has an opportunity with two players to get in the middle, he does, and he beats the press or the pressure, of course. So another good key factor, I think, is the new management of positional awareness, probably not pressing, awareness in midfield. Where they need to be and when they have the freedom to sprint, to make a progression with on and off the ball. With the ball and off the ball.
We're getting the best out of our players in this new form, Leeds United, I guess. But but there's still worries. I think Okafor's looked poorer in this role. Our wingers, of course, are having less minutes. They're not impacting the game as much. Nonto again. So there is always that balance in the squad. So when Dan James comes back, what's his role in this team? Harrison now is kind of not there. He's not needed at all even by the manager who played him a lot at the start of the season. He's not required at all. So there is balances to it. And then you have, like we've already mentioned many, many times, the wing backs getting overloaded, the strikers getting overloaded. The midfield balance and the back three looks really good. Really good. But I am still worried about the overload out wide and the overload of the striker as well. And where the wingers fit, because we have a lot of them. So there's still, with this, there is still stuff that needs to happen with the squad in January to maintain the structure or maintain kind of the consistent performances from the structure. Otherwise, one or two injuries, we're in big trouble with it. So that's what we're going to do now. I think, Andre, you've got a graphic, I believe, mate, haven't you? Of our So next, guys, we're going to leave that game. We're going to talk about the squad. Obviously, January is coming, so we're going to have a chat about transfers very briefly. We are going to do this, as you probably expect, in a lot of detail. And we're going to do a lot of parts of our shows going into January and in January about transfers. We've not had time, both of us at the moment, to really find players. So we're going to do that in the next few weeks. And as you'll see throughout the thing, we'll have a lot of transfer stuff going on. It's going to be good fun. But right now, we'll give names in a bit. We're going to give names of loan players as well that we like and we think we could bring into the team. But Andrea's made this graphic because he's the go at graphics and I'm horrific.
It's very simple.
So
Andrea, to be fair, I don't like it, to be fair. No, because honestly, I use a tool, and then I worked on Photoshop with to do the rest, but I forgot to change the background color. So of course, I didn't have much time, unfortunately. So it's very simple, If you want to see all the marvelous graphics, go on Joe's shows or Joe's shows. We are the normal ones with normal graphics. In terms of these fancy graphics, they have better graphics than us. We are newcomers with this one. But I like to do graphics in my spare time. So you'll have to do with this one. So okay, I have made this one basically because of course I think it's very important. Of course, when you are winning and having a good run, people say, okay, we're fine with this squad, with these players. But there's a lot of players you can play. You can adapt James in that role. You can adapt Harrison in that one. Pirot can play in that role. You can play Perry in number 9, go in 9 if needed. Of course I'm joking, but me, I'm not an advocate for adapting players in roles they are not fit to, because in the end, it's not about depth in terms of players, of men, of bodies. It's about depth. That means not this number of players. It means having different players with different skills, who can offer something different. Like, of course, Okafor, for example, Calvert-Lewin and Mecha are not the same players. They are different. Even in Mecha and Calvert-Lewin, people tend to consider them as two similar players. They can be similar because of the 8, but they have a very different trait. For example, Calvert-Lewin is a player for aerial duels, and Match is an older player. Older players means going with your chest and control the ball and hold up. Calvert-Lewin is a bouncer, in a certain sense. He goes for aerial duels to win the aerial duels and create an advantage sending the ball towards one of the players following up. They are different
then,
even in that sense.
And I'd say Metch is quite good in wide areas with the ball as well. You can put a cross in, for example. Whereas Calvert-Lewin is the one in the box. Metch is the one usually around the box, in wider areas as well. So, yeah, they are very different. They're both tall, they're both physical, but in different ways. They kind of they both give output. They both give kind of a similar, you can both go along to them. But when they do go along, they are different in their role. That's why they work well together, in my opinion. Potentially.
Yeah. You explain it plainly, sorry, very plainly right. But yeah, if you look at the formation, of course, I think we were the first ones 2 months ago to delve deep into this one. Yeah, sorry, into this one, this formation. Explaining the benefits of it. How we could have played in that formation, but also overseeing. We're not Nostradamus, of course, but everyone that knows a bit, about depth and different traits, could have seen that coming. If the switch occurred and actually occurred, and in the end, there's some players that don't fit this system. And there's other players who completely fit this system, but you don't have the proper replacements for them. The first things that come to my mind, the first thing that we said, because Bornau was injured at the time, it was, okay, we switch to 3-5-2, and we have Strauch on the left, Biol in the center, and Rodon on the right. But Bornau was injured at the time, and we don't have any other center back. And people started saying, play Ampadu at center back. No, Ampadu is a number 6. He can play as a center back in the championship. Physically, he's a completely different beast. The subject was missing. The Premier League is a completely different beast, and he's a very good regista playmaker, so keep him in midfield, like we should have done 2 years ago, playing Cresswell at centre back when Stark was injured. So the first thing that you notice is right now we have a little bit of cover, because if Biol, Rodon or Strauch gets suspended or injured, you can play Bornau, the new Gilavogi. Every time he plays, Leeds don't lose. And you can see that there's something magical probably going on at Wolfsburg, because every time they send a player to us in that role, like Gilavogi and Bornau. Every time they come on, we don't lose. He's the new Gilavogi, basically. But apart from that, you don't have Bornau. Of course, he plays in the center because of his body type, because of the fact that he's not very fast compared to Rodon and Strauch, so he's the middle center back in the back three. The problem is you don't have the covers from Strauch and Rodon, you don't have the covers for them. So at least one center back, even alone, because already we've heard Robbie Evans talking about PSR, profit and sustainability, those rules, we need covered. We need cover, because if Strauch or Rodon gets injured, we need to switch back to 4-3-3, because we don't have the cover, and we cannot afford to play again with a back three. Probably Fake, if he really believes in this system, we will play Ampadu on the left or the right, But Ampadu is not the same as Rodon sprinting with the ball, and he's not the same as Strauch. Because Strauch is a very good marker too on white spaces. Ampadu is different. You need a proper center back. There's plenty of opportunities out there, not just on loan. There's even cheap deals. That can happen. So yeah, before moving to other roles, what's your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the center back, the back three? Loki going into January. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. So for work, as I mentioned before, the team I work for, we literally play a 3-5-2 most of the time. It's a back three. It changes in front of that, but it's a back three. So it's really important that when I'm doing my reports, if, for example, I think the player can play as a central centre back or a wide centre back, I have to be very specific. If you just say centre back, or you say central centre back when the player is better as a wide centre back, you'll be in big trouble. For example, imagine Biol on either side of that. I think he struggles massively. But as a central centre-back, perfect. Same for Strauch or Rodon. Imagine Rodon as the central centre-back. That's not great, is it? So there is a massive distinction between that role because, quite frankly, it's a very different role. Look what Rodon were doing at the weekend. Biol ain't doing that. Strauch ain't doing that either. It's very specific. So it is really important that you get a specific wide centre-back who can play that role. It's really important. We can't just bring in a big centre-back who's similar to Biol. That will not work. So, yeah. And look, for centre-backs in a back three system is very, very short. I think that's clear. You know, you need, in my opinion, you need 5 at least.
Reggiana plays with that system and he has 6 centre backs.
Yeah.
So
there
you see that he has they have goal all around, and 2 of them are on loan, I think.
And like you said, people will think Ampadu can play there. Let's be real, right? Even if he does, who's replacing him?
Yeah.
People will say Gruev. Look, like Gruev, is he going to give you any of the output or any similar things to Ampadu? He doesn't. He's a completely different player for a completely different kind of scenario in a game. We don't want that. We've had that moving pieces around. I don't like it. Sign players for their position, keep them in there because we're in the Premier League. We need our best players in the best positions they are best at. So yeah, the back three is, and I think we said this. We had our concerns with the back three in terms of depth and in terms of the wingers, but we always said that back three that sounds brilliant. Biol, Strauch, and Rodon as a 3 that's good. I like the sound of that and the wing backs. But yeah, look at the depth behind the back three. Seriously worrying. Not worrying. Seriously, something we have to, in my opinion, we have to bring someone in. We have to bring someone in who can play on the wide centre back role. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to also say a thing before we move to the midfield area. You know, I don't think Biol is playing apart from you see that he is low when he's forced to follow his man basically on the run. Again, miscommunication on the goal by Palace causing the penalty. Basically, Perry closes the penalty, but the mistake is from Biol, you know. Because people, you know, I'm not boasting anything, you know, or, you know me, I'm a very humble person. I don't want any awards or anything. But people now will say, Biol was criticized. And eventually now he's proving that he belongs. If you remember, we always said, he's not fast. If you expose him in a back 4, you know, he's always gonna struggle, you know, because his preferred position. Okay, he plays in a back 4 with Slovenia. Look at them now, you know, they've sacked Matthias Kek. They're gonna get a new manager. People were calling for Albert Ira from Celi. I don't know if they have named a new manager yet, you know, in the national team. But you know, there's the thing. It's the thing, you know. Thomas Christensen, Omar Solé, Biol, and Christensen. Udinese played with a back 3, and Biol was the one in the middle, and it was all right, absolutely, because he had covered to his sides. And in this case, he has cover on his sides, you know, Strauch and Rodon. So, like we always said, you know, back 3, that's where you need to play him. Aaron now is thriving because he's doing the simple things, you know, marking his man, aerial duels. When he has the opportunity to distribute, remember in a back 4 at Brighton, how much he struggled. Forest, how much he struggled, you know. That's the thing. And moving in the middle, you know, of course, you mentioned Ampel and Gruev again. Gruev, I think, was one of the players that we could have, you know, in the old formation 4-3-3, could have considered for January, but I now think he's gonna stay because he's the backup for Ampadu, and Stack is doing well in this new system in the 8th role. Because Stack is a very good playmaker too. That's what he did at Hoffenheim, different system, of course. So it was playing like Ampadu, but in a different way. You know, he had different tasks. You know, we are okay with Tanaka and Longstaff on one side, but we've seen Aronson playing in the 8 against Crystal Palace. Again, I'm advocating that he played as an 8 on paper, but if you look at his movement, he was more like last season. In a certain sense, he was like a more 3-4-1-2, basically, or 3-4-2-1 in a certain sense. In possession, we know that he can press. We know that he can run. That he can be pesty. That's the name, pesty. Like Peeves, in Harry Potter,
Yeah,
can
Harry Potter, yeah.
bother you all around, over the the pitch with his drones. He's our Peeves in a certain sense, the poltergeist. Yeah. I don't know how we manage these metaphors, like Aronson is Peeves, the Urukai Calvert-Lewin. We watch too much fantasy movies and books. Read too many books.
Too many.
But yeah, Aronson,
too many,
man. Aronson now, of course, can be considered because Falk has played him in that system. You see that people can see that because we have the doc covering that. But yeah, Aronson, tactical enigmas here on the top right. Let's go behind the doc now again. So Aronson here, and then you have Stark, of course. I think we need another one. Yeah, the doc. Quackman. We have we have Aronson in that role. He can be tried on the long term, probably in certain games, but I still think that long term we need to add someone, maybe a creator, a box to box one in that system. And moving on the wings, that's where we need absolutely to sign one player, I think, because we see Gudmundsson and Bogle. You know that in Italian football, I watch basically all the games, not just because of course in Serie B, because we're just playing in Serie B, but because in Serie A I play fantasy football with my friends, so I have some of the players that I have, and that's why I watch basically the majority of the games. No, not just because of that, but because, of course, there's some interesting players too. Atalanta, Fiorentina, Inter Milan, Juve too, all play with a back three and wing backs, And you see that these clubs have proper replacements, because you know that playing in that role or doing all the wing, running up and down, is really draining for a player. For example, Atalanta, now they have Belanova injured. They play with Belanova on the right usually and Zappacosta on the left, but they have Bernasconi, a product of their academy, on the left, and Zappacosta. So they have two proper replacements. And even now he's playing as a left centre back because he's very versatile. Honest Arnold, 17-year-old, gonna play for Italy from March, because he still doesn't have his Italian citizenship, but he was born here, because it's different here. You have to wait until, if you're born in Italy from foreign parents, you have to wait till you're 18 birthday to get Italian citizenship. It's different from the UK. So they have good cover all around. Even Fiorentina, they are last because they are a mess in terms, not because of quality. They have quality, but behind the scenes, they are a complete mess. There's a turmoil in the dressing, there's groups fighting, players fighting among themselves, But they have like Fortini, Gosens, Dodò. Basically they have color around. I think right now, if you look at us, we have two very good wing backs. Gudmundsson, very offensive, and Bogle, more balanced. You have Justin, who I think is a fullback, but doing what Bogle does, especially in the final part of games, Justin is more defensive-minded.
Yeah.
So he's a good cover in that sense, because he's a more defensive player. We see when he comes on, he goes straight to mark his man, basically the player that needs to mark. So he's a good cover defensively. On the other side, Byram, I don't think he's a wing back. He's a fullback. The difference between a fullback and a wing back is that in a certain system, the fullback is more defensive minded. He can get forward, of course, but he contributes in midfield, in the build up. He surpasses, he passes the halfway line, but not consistently. The difference with the wing back is that the wing back is not a defensive player. He's a balanced player, The wing back needs to attack and defend equally.
Playing the role of the winger that isn't in front of him. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a completely different role, the wing back from the fullback. So right now, I think it's mandatory to sign a left-footed wing back like Gudmundsson. A proper replacement for Gudmundsson in certain games. Because again, if you miss Gudmundsson or Bogle, you don't have the proper replacements. Justin, more defensive-minded, he can adapt in that role, I think. Byram, I don't think we can rely consistently on Byram, in the Premier League to perform, especially because of his injury record, his age.
Yeah.
He did well when called upon in the Championship, But again, people might say, play Harrison as a left wing back or James as a right wing back. The problem is James is a winger. He's not a wing back. because he doesn't have the body type and the physicality required to play in that role, and he doesn't have he's a workhorse, but he doesn't have the defensive awareness because he's a winger. He's a very good winger, playing as a winger. So he doesn't really work in a 3-5-2, and that's the problem. With Harrison, if you remember, I think 1 or 2 months ago, I said on one of Joe's shows, by the way, it was very good to see him back at the weekend,
Yeah, man.
back on YouTube, how much we care, all of us. But yeah, Harrison, I said on Joe's show back then, Harrison, I think the future for him is as a left wing back. The problem is we don't have time to experiment right now because our goal is to stay up. We are not like a Crystal Palace, as a Brighton, where we can afford, to adapt a player like Liverpool did with Szoboszlai as a right back, or Brighton with Mats Wiefer, who was a defensive midfielder and now plays as a right back. We don't have that time. We cannot afford to experiment now. Probably Harrison is going to be a player like that. I think the opportunity, if it's there, very difficult because I think, and I'm going to check live, because I think I know, but I think he's out of contract next summer. Gonna check, but I think he's out of contract next summer. No, not next summer. Sorry, 2028. I'm confusing him with another player. But yeah, so yeah, he still has a long contract. Sorry, confused him with another player. If the opportunity is there, he has connections. He did college there. I think he's gonna be a very good MLS player. If the opportunity is there, I think we need to explore that market and find a solution for him because, like you said before, mate, he's barely playing. You see him when he's caught, on the bench, taking part, of course, because he's very lively, even in the celebrations, But he's not featuring anymore right now. He's not featuring anymore. So yeah, this was my opinion on the midfielder. Looking forward to yours now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on Byram. So this is the thing, right? Squad planning, right? Our first two, Goodmanson and Bogle, no worries, brilliant, excellent, really good. Yeah. Can genuinely be our fullbacks for the next 4 or 5 years. Unbelievable players. I love them both. Now the issue is you look at our backup, Justin, as well. Yeah, more defensive minded, but it's a decent alternative if you need to go more defensive. So that's not an instant worry for me right now. That's something you can look at maybe in the summer or the season after, in the January, whatever. But you look at the left side and you've got Goodmanson. The drop off is our backup fullback from last season in the Championship. Now, look, Sam Byram was my favourite Leeds player growing up, by the way, for a period. So I love Sam Byram. But coming from a squad planning perspective, from a Premier League looking forward perspective, the amount of workload Goodmanson's going on, he cannot be our second backup. I actually wouldn't be surprised if when the registration window comes in January that he isn't registered, assuming we bring in another fullback, a wing back. I think that might happen. I've got a feeling. Because obviously he does the homegrown, but I'm fairly sure our homegrown quota is pretty decent. I think we're all right. I think we've got quite a few that count as homegrown. So I do have a feeling, I could be completely wrong, I could be chatting out my backside here, but if we was to bring in a wing back, which I think we need to bring a backup for Goodmanson, a good attack-minded backup. Sam Byram becomes the third choice, but it could be the point of the season where if we do bring in 1 or 2 more, we might have to deregister Sam Byram to help the balance of the squad, assuming as well. So I think that could happen. Because he's not been on the bench either this season at all. Do you know what I mean? He's not really been needed in certain circumstances. Oh my God, I cannot speak. But anyway, the point is, you need the amount of, 80 minutes? Goodmanson's cramping, you're struggling. That will eventually be told. They will pull a muscle. Touch wood, he doesn't. He will do something where he's out for a few weeks or even a month. Maybe he needs a rest. Maybe he's jaded. Maybe his form's not going well. We will need a natural replacement for that. And let's be honest, we don't have it. Like you said, Harrison in the future could maybe be that player. But at Premier League level, to bring the output or a similar output and play a similar role to what Goodmanson does, I think that's, if not one of the biggest glaring things from that graphic. Because Goodmanson is so key to us. If he's out of the team, we saw it with Firpo last year, right? It's similar. Byram came in and did a good job, But when Firpo was not in that team, the difference in output and the way we approach the attack was completely different because it's a completely different player. And in the Premier League, we cannot afford that. That wing-back role on that left side is so important to us this year. We've seen it. Goodmanson needed to be good, and he has been. So if he's not in the team, he needs a rest or is injured or whatever, rotation, back up in the 80th minute. We need to bring someone in for me. I don't have any current names off the top of my head. I will be looking into that in the next few weeks. Don't worry. Do you, Andre? Do you have anyone on?
I have it. If you want, I can show him too. Let me just the picture. While we talk about him.
And after we've done this, we will move on to the midfield and then the attack. Just to give people a bit
exactly. Let me find him. Okay, here it is. Let me just check if he's not injured. So yeah. But yeah, I talked about him, before, he was suspended. But yeah, this is the player basically. I think not many people, but yeah, we have a lot of people from Norway. So just that's just the hint, the hint I'm gonna give you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the player basically. Let me find a picture of him. Okay, here it is. That's the player. Let me just take it off. Okay, here he is. Of course, the Norwegians will know him. Talking about Aron Donnum. Plays for Toulouse in France, Ligue 1. Used to play for Standard Liège, for example. 27 years old, Yeah, that's his position basically. He's very offensive, but he is also balanced, Plays for Norway, not a first choice, but features for them regularly. And there's also another thing, because you need to fit certain situations, and follow the market. That when they do scouting reports, in the NBA, in basketball, when you read scouting reports, you see everything from what a player eats, his friendships, everything. They delve into absolutely everything. There's another thing, his wife, Céline Bizet, who plays for, unfortunately, Manchester United women. In this case, she's been playing for I think 4 years because she was a Spurs before in England. Now she plays at Man United and she's pregnant right now. So I think the player will be eager to move, closer to to his partner, in the UK. But I think the player, apart from that, is apart from some family situation, is a player that is ready to move from the Premier League. I think very versatile. And I think he will be okay with being a backup because in the end, he's going from Toulouse, with all the due respect, of course, because I think they have a good fan base to Leeds. That's a step up. I think he's very similar to Gudmundsson in a certain sense. So yeah, if you want to look also at his stats, I think let's see if it works. Yeah, it works good. So these are his stats. You can see he can play on both sides too, like Justin. So you see this season, also you see that he's more offensive compared to Gudmundsson, because he was before he was Vålerenga, then moved to Standard Liège, returned to Vålerenga, then Standard Liège again, 6 assists, for example. You see that he's very offensive minded, and yeah, he's been at Toulouse since 2023 basically. Started the season at Standard Liège, then moved to Toulouse. And then at Toulouse, you see this season he played 13 games. He was suspended for bad behavior the last couple of matches, but it's been clear now. But you see, he was playing on the right, but as you see, he can play on both sides, very similar to.
And just to clarify, so if you look at position there where it says right mid, this is not midfield. Transfermarkt, when you play a back three with wing backs, it puts them down as a right midfielders. They are wing backs, just to clarify. Yeah, he can also play as a winger, because you see when they play another player in these positions, he can play also as a winger. So I think he's very offensive minded. Because if you see midfielder, for example, on the other end, you see he played on as a right wing back, for example, in this case. But he's very good with both feet, so that won't be a problem. So you'll have two players that can adapt on both sides, like Justin and Donum, for example, in
in this case. But yeah, Toulouse, they have good players. Another good player that if we need a backup center back, I think we have another good player here. If you want to bring him back, I think it will be a smart move too as a backup for the back three, because now you see he's used to playing a back three, and he's similar to Rodon in a sense. Yeah.
Sorry, just very quickly, the number 10 for Toulouse, Boho.
Oh yeah,
that's a player I like. Yeah, number 10, Jan Boho. He's
you mentioned him before, I think.
I did, yes. I love him.
Yeah.
He's pure joy to watch. He loves football. He loves dribbling. He loves driving at players. He loves taking people on. I need a player like that at least, but we'll get into that in a minute, actually, when we talk about the offensive. Yeah, but so there's a player, guys. Just a quick insight there. But like I said, we will be doing more detail on don't worry, we've got all our transfer stuff coming up in January. Do you want to bring the list back up, Andre? The graphic, the list, what we're talking about. But this is important, right? Because I think you've got to be in a position now where obviously the person has to accept that Gabby Goodmanson is the number one. He will play most of the minutes. He is in very good form. He looks very good. You can't bring in a player of caliber that is up here because they won't join. Or if they do join, they won't play and they won't be happy. So you've got to bring someone in who's willing to be the backup, who is maybe looking to progress, or maybe just be part of a Premier League squad, be part of a team going up to Premier League, So, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. So you want to talk also about, I think we talked about the number 8 too. I think it's time to move to the forwards now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to give some names. So just very, very quickly, very quickly. Just on, so where Stack is. I think, again, if we're looking short term, very short term, Snack Longstaff is good. All right with that. Ampadu and Gruev, good. I'm all right with that. Short term, decent. I mean, it's very good, let's be honest. But on Stack. So we play with the midfield 3. We need depth in there as well for each role, in my opinion. I still think we lack a ball carrier in that role. So I've just got a name of a few players very quickly who I think can play there. I mean, I've said them all before. It's no surprise to anyone who I'm going to say. Gustavo Sarr, for me, is a perfect player. Not only that, we mentioned this before we started, he's physical. He's a big physical player. He's at the point now in his career where I think at the end of the season, he could probably get a bigger move than Leeds. But right now, I think it's one of them where if you don't take that risk on him right now, you miss out, for example. Whether that boat sailed, potentially, I think last season he was very, very good. It was one that when we came up, I wanted us to sign for that 10 role, assuming we played 4-2-3-1. But I actually think looking at the way he's played this year, his role's very different. He can play as an 8 as well, and he can play as a 10. And he's just a really good player. If anyone's not watched Gustavo Sarr, obviously, if you can't get hold of any games, go watch his highlights. He's such an elegant player.
Yeah. Famalicão, the club.
Yeah. So it's not a huge club, like in terms of European football or wages. It is at quite a smaller club. So for me, it'd be perfect in that role. And again, looking forward for the future, he's 19. He's the captain as well. That boat might already have sailed. I'll be honest. He might already be touted by bigger clubs in the summer. But just a player I think would be perfect in that role. But yeah, we'll move on from that. We'll talk about the attackers, Andrea.
Yeah, just a quick one from me too. I mentioned, of course, Donum, but I like you said, we didn't have much time so far. But we'll do the usual scouting reports when transfer window opens. I think I mentioned Donum because I think it will be a cheap deal too, a viable one. But if you don't have to go across the channel. You also have Victor Christiansen, for example, so Leicester, Leif Davis at Ipswich. There's other players in France too. I wrote down, for example, Malvin Barr at Nice, Brady Loco at Brest, for example. Then you have in Italy, Doig, Valeri, players that used to play in that formation. Then in the Bundesliga, I mentioned, for example, Alexander Pras from Offenheim, Philippe Mwene, the 2 Austrian ones. Then in these ones, but in center backs, there's viable options, in Italy, like Ostigard. You remember him, I think. He used to play for Stoke City. He's doing very well for Genoa. They are struggling. They are fighting for relegation. So he's their best player right now. So I think he will be worthy because, of course, they will sign to be a backup because they know that they cannot be starters, but they can be good backups, you know. Circati at Parma, Bella Koch up at Verona, for example, used to play for Southampton. Thiago Gabriel at Lecce. In the Championship, there's 3 players, I think, that would be very happy to move, because looking at the situation of their teams that have started struggling, you know, because, of course, Coventry, Middlesbrough, of course, these are the teams flying right now. Arwood Bellis, O'Shea, Greaves, you know, from relegated teams, basically. Then I wrote down from the Bundesliga right now, Diogo Leite from Union Berlin, Querfeld, same team. Ranatz from Offenheim, Elvedi, usually a name sounding around. And this one, I think, could be perfect, because he's not playing much, from Wolfsburg, Moritz Jens. He's similar to Rodon in a certain sense, you know, with his body type. He's a good one. Easy, man. Then these ones.
He was the one I had in my when I went to uni. I did my portfolio. He was the centre back that I had.
Yeah. But even, you know, in the Championship, there's viable deals. You know, I know many people don't like it, but another example in the 8, CD Peck, for example, I think it could be a good signing as a backup. Then, I was just looking at the names. You know, in Italy, you have the ball carrier. I think a very good one, because I think, as I mentioned, Fiorentina are a mess, turmoil. You know, they signed Simon Son from Parma. I mentioned him in the summer before he signed for them. You know, Fiorentina. I think he's that profile, you know, that number 8, because the perfect one from Italy would be Artur Atta from Udinese, but I feel like Tariq Muaremovic as a centre back, you know, for Sassuolo. I think big clubs have eyes on them, on both of them. So even players like Tosved that I mentioned 2 weeks ago, or a Kellenkamp from Udinese, but really a friend group too. But Simon Son, you know, a Swiss international too, I think he's a very good ball carrier, sprinting with the ball, physical player, not very tall, but physical. So I think that, considering the situation at Fiorentina, there's also rumors about many players wanting to leave, because there's fights in the dressing room. You know, there's not much harmony. You know, I think it's a deal that we can look to do. You know, because it's been whistled that Fiorentina is, you know, some like Amparo. You know, some players need to play in an environment that suits them. You know, remember when Amparo played at Venezia and Spezia? I think it can be the same for some, because he's moved to a club that is in turmoil. You know, and he has struggled to adapt there. It was good for Parma. I mentioned him in the summer. I think he could be a good signing for us, you know, in that role.
Yeah. No, that's it, mate. Like I said, there's
even alone.
Yeah, I think there's loads of little gems. I mean, look at Goodmanson. What, around 10 million quid, just less. There's little players like this that I mean, look how good he's been. You know, you could even look at some others in our team. Okafor weren't that expensive. You know, there's a lot of players that can cost probably around that 10 million mark, who have done well in Europe, that will thrive in the Premier League. Big physical players. Now, talking about attackers, I've got a lot of wingers. Now, I'm not going to go into much detail about wingers, because quite frankly, I think we need to get rid of some before we bring some in.
True.
But I'm looking at that row behind the striker. I mean, the second striker, behind Calvert-Lewin and Metra, assuming they are playing together. And these 2 players that I've got that I really want to speak about. And this is the first one. I'll just bring it up.
Yeah, bring it up.
And naturally, as a winger, just to clarify, he is a winger.
Ooh, however, I like him.
One thing I really like about Patrick Wimmer is his physicality as a wide player. He is, what he says, 1.82. He's definitely taller than that. He's around 6 foot. He's a big player, but he's also strong. He's not lean. He's a very strong player. He looks strong. Every time I watch him, I can't help but think, this guy is so suited to the Premier League, because he loves dueling. He's quick. He's direct. He's physical. But he's also a guy for me who, when you watch him play as a winger, a lot of his good stuff comes from him going inside. He's not a byline player. Well, he can do that, but he's not a Okafor kind of, you know, when Okafor gets out wide, he goes direct 1v1, beats his man. Dan James, I guess, is the better. He's not that type of winger. He's a more physical winger who enjoys duels. And I can just see him. He's quite quick as well. I can see him being the perfect player to play in and around a Metra. I mean, played at the same club, so there's that connection. A Metra or DCL, I just think it'd be perfect for us. I mean, looking at his numbers this year, he's not someone that gets ridiculous G&A, but I just think the way we're playing, you know, he's played 12 times this season and got 3 goals, 3 assists. And again, look, I mean, playing on the left side, I mean, look at his last 2 games. He's finally hitting form. He's finding a bit of confidence now and a bit of stride, playing consistently. I mean, in 112 games, 23 assists and 15 goals in the Bundesliga. You know, he's such a player for me that every time I've watched him, it just, for whatever reason, I always think this guy's a Daniel Farke player. Now, again, looking at the way we play, whether that's with wide players or whether that's with a front 2, for me, he can play both those roles. You know, the way Okafor played at the weekend where he played a lot wider, but then he would drift in. I think he can play the wider bit, but he can also play the drifting bit. I just think he's a player who, because of his physicality, he looks so comfortable in central spaces. Another thing as well, he's got a very good shot on him. He can hit a ball really well. He hits a ball so hard. It works for me perfectly. I will go into a lot more detail about this when we do our actual transfer stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch a lot more of him this season because a lot of what I'm remembering is from last year, but he's clearly found some stride. So I'm going to watch them last few games there. But he's another one player. And I just want to quickly talk about one more. Might as well I'll do it this way because it works perfectly.
It's so fun. It's so fun that Union Berlin have look in the trophies above, like the one of the cups of the former DDR, the East Germany.
Yeah.
I think not many clubs have them. When you look, Elias Hansa, I know him.
Elias Hansa, now, again, newly, it's his first season in the Bundesliga. He played in the second tier. Last season, came from Paderborn. They signed him in the summer for £4 million. Now,
Farke team.
Yeah, Farke. Yeah, true. But I remember I mentioned to you, and I think it was last year, wasn't it, Andre? Was it in the summer?
Yeah.
I said, watch out for this guy. This guy is serious. So just to clarify who he is and what he is, he's 1.97 meters, which for an attacker is a joke. He's so strong. He's 21 years old. For the modern attacking player, he fits all the kind of profile of that. Now, what I love about him is more raw than Wimmer. He is more raw and more inconsistent. But just looking at that role, look at where he's played this season. Centre forward, left wing, attacking midfielder. If we're looking for a player that can play 2 systems, one that's played attacking midfielder, left wing, and centre forward equally this season is a player that you need to sign, in my opinion. Start the season really well. I mean, you should look at these 4 goals, by the way. Anyone on YouTube, go look at them goals. They're unbelievable strikes from outside the box. And as you can see, he's not finding a consistent playing role yet in this team. He started down the middle. Now, bring that game up. You can see the formation that they played here. Part of the front 2 in that one with a midfield 3 and 2 wing backs. Again, quite similar to what we do. So again, there's that adjustment. And for me, this is what I like about him, being that modern profile of player. For me, he can play either attacking role in the front 2, whether that's behind the striker or the target man. I think he's better behind personally because he's got pace and he's physical. He's probably not the best in the air in terms of dominating centre backs. But we look at that and then we look at his different roles he's played. So here it is as in the left wing role. Again, 3-4-3. Kind of similar to Okafor's role at the weekend. A different kind of thing. But he's got so many physical attributes that work that, again, I'm trying to look for players that I think would fit our system, but most importantly, would suit the Premier League. Now, I'd go with Wimmer because he's more proven. He's done it consistently for his country as well and in the Bundesliga for a few years. Answer's very new, but he started the season really well. And he's one for me, similar to Gustavo Sarr, where I can see in maybe 2 or 3 years moving to a top team once he really develops and finds some consistency. He's such a physical presence in the game, but he also has a lot of physicality in terms of he can be direct with the football, he can shoot. You know, his 1-2s, his interplay needs to be a little more improved potentially. Not the best technically in terms of quick passing dynamic movement, but in terms of on the ball, and in terms of his movement off it, working with a striker, I think he's really, really good. So he's a young one that I want to say. They're just 2 players that I wanted to just bring up in that attack role behind the main striker. I think they're 2 that could seriously work. Because I look at our current options. I mean, Okafor, I think, can do that. But in the way we play, I think he needs someone that's a little bit more direct to feet, not in the air, not running off. I think he's more of a direct player. Would you agree with that, Andrea, in terms of playing behind that striker? Sorry, a less direct player, more to his feet so he can turn and drive.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's another player that, as far as you mentioned, of course, he's moved there, for Levante. That already you mentioned him. Patrick Wiener, you already mentioned, I think, in the past too. Let me just bring this up, because I talked to him about him in the summer when he hadn't still debuted, made his debut in. Well, so of course he made his debut, but he hadn't featured regularly, in La Liga. So maybe you remember him. This one. I think you remember him because when we talked about now he's at the Africa Cup of Nations, of course. When we talked about doing the scouting video, on Jaws, and I had that list of any players, all the nines. And Hector Young was at Villarreal, but he was playing for the second team, because if you look at last season,
yes, I remember now. I remember you mentioned.
Yeah, he had scored 19 goals and six assists, for the second team. I think this one is the third tier, I think, of Spanish football. I just played 4 games and won. Then he moved to Levante this season. Of course, Levante, I don't think they're doing well. If I remember correctly, they are fighting for relegation in La Liga. Scored 5, 1 assist, So that's another player because he's 181 meters. I don't know how much in your measuring, Yeah, it's not, let's just say he's not tall like Calvert-Lewin and Matcher. But yeah, he's very versatile player. He's very similar to Okafor in a certain sense. So I think it will work for him in that sense. Let's see what he did this season. And they're playing him as a versatile 9, but for example, this one against Mallorca, you see they play with a front 2. Kouliapu used to play for Auxerre, I think, last season. Another
Joseph
one that
on the right.
Sorry?
Joseph on the right. Sorry. Just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see him now. Kouliapu was in my list too because he was at Auxerre, I think. I remember correctly, French, or Lens. I think he was at Lens, not Auxerre. Lens, because he moved from the Bulgarian league, CSKA Sofia, to Lens. I think it's him.
Okay.
Let me check very quickly because I want to get. Yes, come on. Nice. I have a good memory. Good. So yeah, you see, Kouliapu is more physical. Then they have Hector Young basically doing what Okafor does for them. For 2. Right. You see, in the other team, you have Matteo Joseph playing as a right winger with Sergi Darder. They are very close, apparently, if I remember correctly. By the way, so yeah, Hector Young. Now going back to the graphic, you mentioned a winger. Of course, he cannot play as a second striker, but a winger. If we were ever to switch back to 43, Gustav Isaksen from Lazio, mentioned him 2 weeks ago too, but I think he's very good on the right. If we need a right winger. Another 9, of course, that I really like is Nicolo Tresoldi from Club Bruges. Sorry, Circle Funds, Club Bruges. Let's specify that. Very good, but I think again already big clubs have eyes on him, so very difficult. But yeah, talking about the wingers, not the wingers, the strikers. I think in the second striker, we talked about it. I think it's the position we need to strengthen the most, because in the end you have Calvert-Lewin and Mecha. Maybe they play together, yes, but I prefer more like a more physical or aerial 9 up front, and a second striker, a more mobile, versatile one that can cover. Like when Gnonto came on, Gnonto played in that role as a second striker with Italy under 21s when he was playing for them. So he can play in that role. It's not his best role for me. The best role for Gnonto is on left winger in a front 3. But we've seen that with his run, his pressing, similar to Aronson, he can be pesty. He can be bothering the player in possession, the back line. But that's not what we consistently need from a second striker. We need the second striker to be very versatile and be capable of making runs off the ball like Okafor can do, But the problem with Okafor is that he's now been used to play on the left wing. So it tends, even as a second striker, to go wide on the left. And that's the problem. He needs to stay in a more central area, because all the goals that he scored basically have come from a central area or are won from a central area. And he played in that position consistently before moving to an AC Milan at RB Salzburg, Red Bull Salzburg. And even when he started at AC Milan, he played in there, then I think there's this conviction that he really wants to, maybe himself he's convinced that he is better as a winger, but I think he's more effective as a second striker, to be fair. He just needs to believe that and be more direct, because sometimes, even against Brentford, too much struggling, too much stalling. Even when he had the opportunity to shoot, he stalled too much on the ball, and that's where we needed to strengthen, because in the end, Harrison, James, Aronson, they cannot be second strikers, they cannot be second strikers. Pirot maybe move in January. I think he's the most suspected one for a move. So okay, you have two taller nines, Calvert-Lewin, Mecha, some key differences between them. You can have Okafor as a second striker, okay. Gnonto is a winger. He played there for the under-21s, but as we know, a good example can be Matteo Joseph. Under-21 football is different from senior football. Some players do well with the national team against players from the same age, but in senior football, they struggle to make an impact consistently. So again, Gnonto can be an option there, but I don't want him to be the first option after Okafor. So I think if we were to sign a more, not tall, but more versatile nine, remember that Farke had Pukki, for example, at Norwich, a more versatile one, a different one from Calvert-Lewin and Mecha. That's another position that we need to strengthen, Even a Wimmer, a very versatile one, like you said. But one capable of adding that, because otherwise you don't have much depth, like the other day, Calvert-Lewin, Okafor, then when he needed to make the change, he changed and he put on Gnonto as a second striker and Pirot as a number 9. The problem is that you cannot play the long ball or the hold-up ball to Pirot because you didn't have Mecha. So it's also a big question mark for the recruitment team, because in the end, there'll be options on loan probably, like people, you mentioned him last summer too, after the Club World Cup, Gonzalo Garcia was very effective at the Club World Cup. Now he's not seeing the pitch much at Real Madrid. He's very young. We've seen examples like that, in the past. We've seen other players another player that comes to my mind, he hasn't played much this season because of an injury at the start, and he hasn't featured much since he moved to Real Sociedad. Ori Oskarsson, for example, the Icelandic one. Down there, there's many names. I think we'll finish with looking at some names in the Premier League and in the top leagues, of players that might be available for a loan because of PSR. But yeah, definitely to make a resume for myself, centre back, one, left wing back, in order basically, centre back, left wing back, second striker, and centre mid. 4. I think realistically we need to get at least 3, but I will be happy if we get a centre back and a left wing back. We still need, I think, but it might be more difficult to get one. We still need an attacker, like a backup for Okafor, for example, but we know that we can hope and wish for 4 signings, like I said, but realistically we might get 0 or 2 at best,
Yeah, I just think, mate, we're in a position where we have to kind of just let's not leave ourselves short this year. Let's make sure I don't want to be in a position where we lose a Goodmanson or, a centre, a Strauch or a Rodon, and then suddenly we have to change everything up. Whoever we bring in, for me, should be someone who can be a backup right now, but a good backup in them defensive areas. And then even as this striker, for me, I still think we need a good striker to help Calvert-Lewin and Metra, because we are a little short. And then ideally, another midfielder. But we although we don't have specific cover or a certain profile, we do have a decent amount there. So I agree. Just look where we're short. Let's fix it up. Let's not leave anything to risk this season. again, if we're losing 1 or 2 players out, if Perrault does go out on loan, that's been talked about today. Whatever happens with Byram in terms of registering, or maybe Harrison, there is a little space to work. Whether they are loans, I don't care, as long as they keep us in the league and they are what we need. But yeah, that's it for that.
But yeah, like I said, Merry Christmas to everyone. Thanks, Lockie, for this ride so far. It's been a privilege to find another football mind like you. I've seen people enjoying that so far in our talks. Good way to also, like we did with the books and other things, to like encourage others, to do more research, to take a different interest in something, to see football from a different perspective, So thank you. Have a good Christmas with your family, with your girlfriend, and happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, you too, mate. I just want to quick say on that as well, just very, very quickly, like, the reason these are long, we just talk. We don't like it to be about clips or screenshots from like a 20-second clip to get view. That we're doing this just to have a long chat about detailed topics, hopefully more detail. I know it's not for everyone. This is not meant to be for everyone. This is meant to be for whoever wants to listen. We don't want to reach the masses. We want to reach the people that like this kind of thing. We don't do it for monetization. We can assure that, because we don't get any. But that's because this is the way it is. We could do it shorter, we could do it snappier, but we don't want to. This is just what we're doing. We enjoy it. It's just a little fun on the side to talk to each other about football and deeper things at times within the game, which we will be doing a lot in the next year as well. But yeah, thank you everyone. This is kind of on the side of what we do. This isn't our thing. This is what we catch up. Literally, we have a few hours on a Thursday, a Wednesday afternoon. That's all we've got. We record it then I edit it Thursday. So yeah, thank you for everyone for the support. Honestly, I will be going through comments now. I've got 2 weeks off work. I'll be going through them in the last few videos, thanking everyone. But yeah, thank you for everyone for their support. As you guys know as well, if you've got this far, I'm not doing any more on YouTube. This is all I'm doing now. I'm slowing it down a bit as I try and ramp up the actual football side of my career, hopefully. So this is what I'll be doing. So if I'm not on any shows, I've not fallen out of anyone. People like to, we're all friends. So everyone gets on with each other. I've got really good friends off of this. I'm focusing on my football career side of it. And I don't have time for anything else, quite frankly. So that's all. But yeah, thank you everyone for the year, the support since I started this. It's been unreal. But yeah, on to the next one where we'll be bringing out, don't worry, the transfer content will be, make sure you're here, all right? Because there's a lot of research, there's a lot of work that goes into this stuff. And it will be in the next few weeks. I will be, and Andrea will be working hard to try and find the right players, not just names. We want to find the right ones. But yeah, thank you everyone. We'll see you guys in the new year, probably now. And have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you later. Bye-bye.